10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Nine, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
on the morning shift.
anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the Morning Shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. Thankful that you're here with us. We're live on CKLU 96.7 FM on the radio, terrestrial radio, that is. And we're also streaming live at cklu.ca. Just click on the Radio Player Canada app and you can stream us. If you download it, you can take us with you and listen to us anywhere, anytime on your favorite device. And make sure to also catch us on demand after the lives on facebook.com/Sudbury News, youtube.com/Sudbury News. While it's live, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow. Also, on demand on those two platforms, along with twitter.com, now x.com/Sudbury News, and our Sudbury.news aggregating website. It aggregates all the local news into one convenient location. It's our answer and our service to our community for all the news organizations to have their news easily accessible, as Facebook and Instagram, the world's largest platform for sharing on social media. There's a government policy that prevents, well, I guess people, the way they, depends which side of the political side of the floor you're on. Many people say, well, the government made a policy and then Facebook wouldn't listen. So no, the government's very happy with the results that Facebook is not sharing news, whether it's local, regional, provincial, national, or any world news on its platform, right? So that was the result. You don't hear anything of it anymore from the politicians that were very worried that the local journalists weren't being paid. And that's the reason why they did it in the first place. But they're not pushing it to happen because they now can't share their news and they're getting less exposure. So they don't really care, right? And how can government actually care? Because government is a collection of people, and you can't have a collection of people that care. You can have individuals who care, but it's impossible to have a group of people care about you. It's like when you see the transport going by and the company says, it's because we care. A company can't care about people. People can care about people, individuals can, but groups can't. So the government actually doesn't care about you. So that's just a revelation that you guys can have free of charge this morning. You don't need to pay for that kind of wisdom or advice, because I didn't. It came directly from above for me one day as I was contemplating, why doesn't the government do this? Why doesn't the government do that? You would think it would be so easy to just do this or do that. Don't they care about us? And the answer was, no, they can't. They don't. They don't care about you. So just let that, simmer in your minds, because I think us as human beings, we just have a tendency of giving the other person the benefit of the doubt or whatever, that, they must care. Like, how could they not care about me, right? My doctor. Does your doctor actually care about you? Actually care about you? Your doctor. Really? Your nurse practitioner. The person in emergency you're going to see when you're really sick. Do they really care about you? You know? So it's just something to kind of keep in mind, just to keep it real. Just keep it real. Doesn't mean we stop caring about people. People care about people usually, right? People are supposed to care about people. There's lots going on in the world that make us very hardened to not want to care anymore, but we shouldn't let that kind of creep in. And it's really, you know, the examples in government too, all the money they waste and they make and they just continue to take from us. You know, it makes a lot of people hardened. And then to actually think, well, they must care about me. They must be doing this for a reason. That's kind of like an abusive relationship, right? That we need to get out of, because you got to get out of abusive relationships. And that's our relationship with our government. Definitely, if you were a psychologist and you were to really look at the facts and sit down with the government and you on the other chair, government on one chair, you on another chair, and the psychologist was to just question, so tell me a little bit about these taxes that you're asking of Aaron over here. So there comes a point, right? He's going to run out of money and he won't be able to afford taxes as they still keep going up and up. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, you know, if they were to sit in a chair like that and have to answer those kinds of questions, that would be really comical, actually. Sounds like a comedy skit. Anyways, it's going to be a great show today, I promise. And we'll kick it off with a little bit of weather, which I'm not impressed with these last few days and this week and whatever. It is what it is, but we'll start off with a little bit of weather. Make sure to comment. We'll do our best to get your comments up on the screen for those watching, red for those listening, and we'll be back right after the weather. Stay tuned. It's going to be a great show. I promise, or your money back. All right, and Sudbury weather brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. There is a heat warning today. There's a heat warning and an air quality warning today, just so you know that. 16 degrees currently. It's partly cloudy, and it'll be clearing this morning. Local smoke as well, and the wind will be coming from the southwest. High of 29, humidex 33. So very, very, very humid and hot. UV index will be 8 or very high. Clear wind, southwest 20 kilometers per hour. The low tonight is only 19, right? So it's still going to remain very warm overnight. Tomorrow, sunny in the morning, then a mix of sun and cloud with a 60% chance of showers in the afternoon, with a risk of thunderstorm in the afternoon. Wind becoming, again, from the southwest 20 kilometers, gusting to 40 late in the morning. High of 30, but with the humidex tomorrow, it'll be 36. With those thunderstorms, you never know. We could have, we had some tornado warnings this weekend that just passed, which is pretty scary. And that's the kind of weather we're getting, is just this really hot, humid weather. The UV index, again, 8 or very high tomorrow. But then looking forward in the Thursday forecast, 16, 60% chance of shower. So it's cooling off a little bit on Thursday. Then Friday, sunny, 25. Mix of sun and cloud on Saturday with a high of 23, more moderate temperatures. And then 40% chance of showers on Sunday with a high of 25. Monday, 27 degrees with a mix of sun and cloud. That is your forecast, along with a heat warning and an air quality warning due to the smoke that we've been experiencing these past few days. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments, and more right after this. Okay, and welcome back. So glad to have all y'all on. We got quite a few people here. We're a little bit more on time today. And good morning, Northern Hillbilly. Good morning to you on YouTube, Marianne. On Facebook, good morning, everyone from Barrie, liked and shared, as usual. And Denise, good morning, everyone. All have a wonderful day. Stay safe and healthy. Like and share. Yes, love the like and share. Much appreciated. Gets the word out, gets the community building more, and has a more robust conversation with more people involved. Monique, good morning. Sudbury, smiley emoji with the shades. Pat, good morning, all y'all. Peace sign. Vin, morning to you. Nana, good morning. Blessings, everyone. Heart emoji and exclamation point. Yeah, good morning. I sent your message off that you wanted me to send, and you should expect a call very shortly. I'm not sure today, tomorrow, but shortly, soon. And thanks for sharing that article as well, Nana. Sheila, good morning from Quebec, exclamation point. Judy, good morning to you. And Hazel, good morning. Prayer emoji, very needed, very appreciated. Holly, good morning to you. And Marianne, government only cares about keeping us compliant and our money. Okay, yes, I'm sure a lot of people agree with you on that. And Monique, good rising, heart emoji, double exclamation point. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. George Orwell. George Orwell. What's a morning without a quote from George Orwell, right? It's so today, you know? If someone was to read that book, and they should have like a more modern version of it, really, because it's really, you know, the movie version. They have a lot of things in there where you're like, huh? But if you actually made it with today's technology about today, it's a lot more believable for sure. Someone should just do it. Call it 2024 instead of 1984. Something like that, even though it's a year outdated already. But maybe 2034. And Marianne, great question. I always wonder about the medical system. I tend to lean towards they do Band-Aid fixes. Yeah, it's just because of the system. It's because of who's in charge of the system, who, I want to almost say invented the system, but there was a group of people that got together, and instead of homeopathic, it was like we had a homeopathic system back in the turn of the century, the 1800s to the 1900s. And then you had a family by the name, you might have heard of them, Rockefellers, got together. They had oil was their big business, and they created an industry based on oil and products that used oil, and pharmaceuticals was born. And so they had, you know, more of a lean towards this pharmaceutical instead of actually getting to the root of the problem, just fix the symptoms, fix the symptoms, or at least, you know, like, come on, like we haven't even come up with a cure for the common cold yet. You know what I mean? Like we don't even know how to solve the common cold. You get a cold, you go to the pharmacy and you're trying to pick stuff. Well, it just helps it, I guess. It just, you know, you got a sore throat. Well, it soothes your sore throat, or, you know, you might calm down your congestion or something, but it doesn't actually fix it. It doesn't actually get rid of it. After all these years, we're so advanced. Our society is so advanced, yet we can't cure the common cold. Can't do it. We just can't. It's impossible. Yeah. Okay. So Pierrette, good morning to you. They care about the air. They care about CAIR. Council on American Islamic Relations. Oh, that's interesting. Our Islamophobia, racist self-censorship policy is proof of that. And again, I'm a fan of just speaking openly about anybody who does anything. and having a conversation about it, regardless of what language, what color, what ethnicity, what background, what age you are, what gender you are, what income level, how educated you are, any of these things. It doesn't matter. I think the conversation needs to include everyone. And if you see something that looks and smells wrong, you should be able to point it out. And even if you're wrong about it, then it comes back in the conversation and then you can be corrected. And I think that's the way to go about things. We don't need to be self-censoring, although our society is going to be turning into a place where we don't need to self-censor. You're going to be persecuted, prosecuted, and given punished. You're going to be punished through force for what you are going to be saying, right? So that's where our society is going. Big Pharma is your drug dealer. I've heard that many, many times. And Wanda, good morning to you. People don't get into caring professions anymore because they care. It's because those professions pay a lot of money, which is what they care about. And I can't disagree with that too much, right? What do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, who makes the most money? Oh, doctor. Oh, I'll be a doctor. And you're deciding this when you're like 16 or 17 years old, right? Because you got to start early and you got a lot of schooling you got to go through. And maybe you're like, 5 years in, you're like, really? Do I really want to be doing this? Well, I'm 5 years in already and I'm like hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt already. Well, yeah, I better continue. The money is going to be good. I can pay off my debts. And these, again, when you're meeting with your doctor, you got to think of how they got into it, why they got into it, who they really are. Like, there's good and bad in every profession, right? But I'm always thinking, like, this person made this decision to be in this chair in front of me when they're like 16 years old or 17 or 18, and it's not like you think they had a revelation or they had angels come down and tell them this is their profession because they're going to change the world and care about people. More than likely not. And Jerome, good morning, Sudbury News Hounds. Listening from work. Good morning, Jerome. And Evelyn, good morning to you on YouTube. Marianne, we need some rain. Been pretty hot here. And Barry, no rain. Oh, wow. Well, we've had quite a bit up here. And Marvin, good morning to you from Alberta. And glad to have you on, Monique. And I think you had a birthday recently, if I'm not mistaken. It might have even been yesterday. So happy birthday to you. And Monique, check out Deborah Tavares. You'll be shocked. Weather manipulation, etc. Okay, so Deborah Tavares, and we're going to be talking about weather here because that's one of the main stories going on. Unprecedented floods. Once in 1,000-year floods, but there's like 30 of them happening like in 3 days. How does that happen? Anyways, we'll talk about that. And good morning to you, Marianne. Hope all had a fantastic birthday yesterday. Good morning, Marvin. Yes. He did, I believe. Yes. You guys had already commented, but I didn't read that yet. I just remembered seeing it on Facebook. So a lot of love for Marvin here and his birthday. And Jerry, good morning to you. Sudbury News, good morning. Unfortunately, our parliamentary system, this is Sheila, parliamentary body, care about their results and wealth first. No empathy for Canadians struggling. If they did, they would not be spraying humans like bugs. Almost like they have declared a war against us. Well, almost like, I think it is. That is what's going on, for sure. And so it is what it is. And good morning to you, Mike. Thanks for being on. And hi, everyone, for sure. And Pat says there's no money in a cure, for sure. And that's talking about, we haven't cured the common cold yet. If you look at the industry around the cold, possibly, curing it would be terrible for profits. Terrible. And good morning, Estelle. Thanks for being on. Great to have you here. There's so many people joining us this morning. It's so great to see y'all. And let's just head into some of the stories we'll be talking about today, going through our news aggregator, which is Sudbury.news. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, check it out. We'll put it on the top third here on the screen for those watching. For those listening, we're going to be going through the stories anyways, so hang on to your seats. This one just in. They'll be talking about this on CBC, so if you're driving or, you listen to CBC, you'll hear more of this story on it because they usually have a main story of the day. Apparently, there's a young lad from Kirkland Lake who is fighting the war in Ukraine, and he's just home for a little holiday. So the headline is, "I'm eager to go back. Northern Ontario soldier enjoying vacation at home from war in Ukraine." To me, I was like, that's interesting. Northern Ontario soldier spending a month home after fighting on the front line of the war in the Ukraine for the past year. So he just up and went to fight for Ukraine, right? From Canada, risking his life on the front lines. Raised $26,000 or so for a vehicle, for his, his platoon or whatever, for his guys. I don't know. There's just so much comes to me from that story. Like, do we really understand what's going on in the war, first of all? Do we know what we're even fighting for? He talked about in this article that he can't really give details about what it's like on the front lines or what they do and stuff. I just thought there's crazy stuff in war, right? And let's say, I'm not saying this particular young man is like this or has this mindset, but let's just say you love video games, you love killing. You're just saying, what is it really like to actually kill somebody, And then they're like, "Hey, if you want to come over and fight in this war, come on over and, hey, you get my chance, I don't know. I just thought, can it just be black and white where it's like, oh yeah, someone's valiant, they want to just fight for someone's cause and help them? Or could there be a darker side, to this type of stuff when you actually want to go fight in a war? Like, I don't know, maybe there is benevolence there and there's someone who really truly wants to sacrifice their life, or let's say someone just had some obsession with the idea that, wow, they get arrested here if they did it, but they could go there and do anything they want. And again, I'm not saying that this particular young man is thinking like this. That's what came to my mind, and I just thought that's interesting. And again, the views that are expressed on this show, I just want to say this, the views that are expressed on this show are that of my own, those commenting when I read their comments, the guests we have on, and the news articles we read are of that of the news outlets, specifically this one coming from CBC. It's their words, and they don't necessarily reflect that of Laurentian University, staff, faculty, anyone else there, students, or CKLU's volunteers or staff. They are the comments and the views of myself when I make a comment of my own, the people commenting when read, the guests that are on, and the news articles that we read, and don't necessarily reflect anyone else's other than our own views. Okay, cool. Morning to you, David. Thanks for being on. And very much appreciated here. So going through some of the stories here. Let's see. Okay, so police in Sudbury are looking for drivers who saw the fatal crash. A 44-year-old man died last month on the LaSalle Boulevard extension. This is from the Sudbury Star. So if you have any information from that crash whatsoever, police are looking to ask you and to meet with you to get more information from you about that. And this is, again, this is Sudbury.com. Environment Canada warns of extreme heat in Sudbury this week. Environment Canada has issued a heat warning for Greater Sudbury with hot and humid conditions expected Tuesday to Thursday, right? So that was the warning we talked about during the weather. Just to keep in mind to do your best to keep cool, keep indoors. Anyone with breathing issues should, take necessary precautions because of the smoke that's out there. Very terrible. And this one coming from Sudbury Star. They basically are giving a background of our new CAO. Remember, our former one was fired not that long ago, and they were on the hunt for a new one. She replaced Ed Archer, you remember his name, who was terminated in October. So our new CAO, and I'm not going to even take a chance on her last name just for the sense of I didn't have time. I know her first name is Sherry, so. I looked up what the salary is for CAO, just for whatever, and it's around $400,000 a year, so it's pretty robust. Like there's a lot of money here, but it gives her background, and you can, visit Sudbury Star's article for all the latest on meeting our new CAO. She outlines her vision for the city, all kinds of stuff here. So, can you outline your 5-year vision for Greater Sudbury? The vision for our city established by the mayor and council, with the staff being tasked to deliver on that vision and direction. That is typically done through a strategic plan and a series of actions approved by council, with input from the community, of course. The current plan priorities are asset management, business attraction, climate change, of course, climate change, economic capacity, housing, as well as healthy and vibrant communities. We're nearing the end of the current time frame for the city's strategic plan, as I envision a refresh or a new process starting just after 2026 municipal election with a new term of council. Much progress has been made in each of these areas, but there is still work to be done, and over the next 5 years, we will need to continue the progress while revisiting to ensure there are still the most important areas of focus. This will be an interesting election coming up. I got to admit that. Very interesting election. I'm wondering what's going to happen. Only in Sudbury. We got these huge legacy projects just on the verge of happening. And if there's a public backlash against all the money we're spending on these things, and there's an election and these people are all voted out because, the citizens are like having enough of this, and then it's kiboshed, and then they're going to start all over again with all the businesses and buildings that are demolished downtown. I don't know. It's just interesting timing. That's all I got to say. An election next year. It's just, I don't know. What could go wrong? That's all I got to say. What could go wrong? So now more on, Canadian news, and then we'll slip into some other stuff right after that. Like it's just been released that Mark Carney, in fact, does have conflicts of interest. All the people that voted for him, the elbows up, all this stuff, all believing, though, Mark Carney is the savior. who is the real puppet master anyways behind Justin Trudeau, as we know, as it was in the first place. So you just voted in Justin Trudeau's master, basically. But people get duped all the time, right? So we were duped. And Mark Carney, basically, has tons of conflicts of interest. Brian Lilly, I just saw this yesterday in his
Mark Carney's
his report, Lilly Unleashed. It just goes into it a little bit. He doesn't go into too much depth, but just the fact that, this blind trust that he had is just full of things, over 103 things that compromise him from running this country. Anyways, really interesting stuff.
Mark Carney's massive conflicts of interest. Hi, I'm Brian Lilly, political columnist for the Toronto Sun. We all knew this day would come. Mark Carney's ethics disclosure revealing that, yes, in fact, the man who tried to portray himself as a saint does have conflicts of interest. Now, that doesn't disqualify him from being prime minister. He owns a lot of assets, he has a lot of investments, and he has to recuse himself from many of them. But remember, back before the election, there were journalists trying to ask him, well, don't you have any conflicts of interest? Shouldn't you release what your investments are now before the election? And Carney just wanted to shut it down. He didn't even want to entertain or say, look, we'll deal with it when the time comes. He denied there was even the possibility that he, Saint Mark of Carney, could have a conflict of interest.
Are serving as Prime Minister now, with Canadians not being aware of what potential conflicts of interest
What
you sought
possible
to avoid?
conflict would you have, Stephanie? Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance. Point final.
You say you are not opposed to any conflict of interest.
Yes.
You spend most of your time like in the private sector. There's no possible conflict of interest in your assets. It's very difficult to believe.
Look inside yourself, Rosemary. I mean, you start from a prior of conflict and ill will.
Well, that was March, and this is July. And now the documents are out. We know the truth. Carney has 103 companies or entities, such as mutual funds, that he has to recuse himself on. That means if they're discussing anything in the government, at cabinet, what have you, where he or these companies could potentially benefit, he has to stand up, leave the room, let other people make the decisions. Some of these are massive funds, like the two that he set up, the green technology funds that he set up for Brookfield, worth $15 billion and $10 billion. They have a lot of assets and a lot of issues that government might deal with. There's companies like Westinghouse or companies like Stripe, the online payments processing firm, that could have been subject to the digital services tax that he just got rid of. Interesting. So, look, the ethics screen is there. We know what the conflicts of interest are now. We can deal with it. But remember, Mark Carney's been talking about how we need to invest more in Canada. We need to be elbows up. We need to build the strongest economy in the G7, and that's what he's going to do. But where did he put his money when he was just looking out for himself? I scanned through the hundreds of companies he was invested in that all went into his blind trust, so we don't know if he still owns them or not. Neither does he, or at least he shouldn't. But it was interesting to see. American banks like Bank of America, it's on there. Well, so is Citigroup, so is JP Morgan Chase, so is Fifth Third Bank Corp, and a number of other smaller banks. They're all in this document. And no Canadian banks, though. No TD, no Royal, no Scotiabank, CIBC, etc. They're not there. What about airlines? Well, he's invested in American Airlines, Delta, United, Southwest. No Canadian airlines. This is a giant amount of stocks that he's invested in, hundreds of companies, and very little Canadian content. That tells you that Mark Carney wasn't betting on Canada until he got the job as Prime Minister, but he wanted us to bet on him. How he's going to do over the next little while, we'll have to wait and see.
So he's, as you can see there, Brian Lilly, just giving an overview of now that his investments have been public, which they should have been public in the first place before he even ran. Canadians are so gullible. They just are so gullible. And it's because of what they wanted anyways. A bunch of liberal, voters that wanted liberals to be right because, the the country's going to shambles. We got crisis after crisis. We got housing crisis, opioid crisis, inflation crisis, affordability crisis, healthcare crisis, you know. And the very party that caused them, which they did, if you go back to the timeline of 2016, 2015, you know, you look at life pre-2015 and the life post-2015, you know who caused the problems. It's policies that cause the problems that we have. And then you have the very people that caused the problems coming in and wanting to be the savior of those problems, which is like crazy. It's, I guess, the definition of that. Like if you just really think about it, the very people that cause, you know, if someone, you know, punches you in the face and then say, hey, I can put a Band-Aid on that. You know what I mean? Let me just see. I know exactly what to do for your, you know, breaks your arm. Okay. You know, don't worry. I can put it back in place for you. It's okay. It just doesn't make any sense. The very people causing the problems are the ones with the solutions, and they're not held accountable for the problems they caused in the first place. People are actually voting them in to solve the problems they caused. Why did they cause them in the first place? I have no idea. What were they thinking? I'm clueless on it. I'm not actually, but for the sake of this show, let's just say I have no idea why they do these very insane things, insane policies that make no sense. They just drive Canada into more and more debt. Everything's broken. It gets more and more broken. And somehow people just keep it going. They just keep it going. Now he's so conflicted. They needed to know ahead of time. Look inside yourself, Rosemarie. You come from a place of whatever. That's what he says to the reporter. You know, that's the guy you voted for. That's the way he talks to people. Like women, all the feminists out there should be appalled that he talked down to a woman like that. He mansplained her. But no, it's okay. In this case, he's our guy. He's wearing our colors, right? He likes hockey. Terrible shot, by the way. Can't hit the broadside of a barn. But he put on skates and he put on a jersey. Like he's got to be. He had Mike Myers with him. You know what I mean? So I got to vote for this guy. That's who we vote for. We voted for Justin Trudeau because of his hair. And he was cute. That's the kind of country we are. Yeah. We don't think about who we're voting for and why, what kind of leader they're going to be. We don't care about that. We just care if they're good looking, you know, and they just tell us what we want to hear. They might not make good decisions or whatever. So speaking of someone who is actually just coming out, maybe not perfect or whatever, but this is an article that Nana sent to me this morning. Polyev says Carney should sell his assets after ethics screens disclosed, right? Why not? You want to be the prime minister. You can't really be the prime minister when you're so conflicted with all these things. All these decisions have to be made to run a country. You can't just excuse yourself from every meeting. And if you're involved with 103 different companies and different industries, especially all these green industries, and Canada is supposed to be going net zero, like he's at the top of the food chain. He's the guy who's created net zero, for crying out loud. He's conflicted everywhere. So how can he actually run a country when he can't say anything about it? But he's going to police himself, apparently, because we don't have the resources to actually hold him accountable on these things where, you know, we're just going to leave it up to him to self-police to make sure he actually leaves the room when he's conflicted in a conversation, you know, because he has so much integrity. Brian, good morning to you. Thanks for being on. So anyways, Polyev is saying that he should just sell off his assets and run the country. If he wants to be an investment person in that industry, go ahead, be that. But you can't be the prime minister and be that at the same time. You can't be making money off the decisions you're making, the policies you're making. That is in essence, that is the definition of conflict of interest. The liberals out there said, yeah, but we don't care. We get Polyev. He's so dangerous. He's very dangerous, yeah. Why is he dangerous, though? What policies was he going to make that was going to be so dangerous? Was he going to cut back the federal workers? Oh, Carney's already doing that. And he's doing it in a worse way than Polyev said he was going to do it. He was going to do it in a nice, kinder way through, early retirements and things like that. He's going to phase workers out. But Carney's just coming in and cutting jobs, right? But can we see that if we're wearing the sweater, the liberal sweater, right? Can we see something wrong with our party? Or are we in an echo chamber? Can we actually see what's really going on? Can we wake up and actually look at it? Or is it just, this is bad and this is good? I have to go with this because I'm a liberal. My whole family voted liberal. My whole life, I'm a liberal. Why am I a liberal? I don't know. I'm just going to vote for that. Because I have to think. I can't think. It hurts. It hurts to think. Or we're going to have to start thinking. Lots of stuff going on in the world around us. If we don't start thinking now, there's no hope for us. Right? So if we look here at all the stuff going on with the weather that's been happening, it's called geoengineering, correct? So the good folks at Geoengineering Watch here, they had their latest podcast, and they have a really good opening that has my cousin on it.
It lays the predicate and the foundation for the development of a weather satellite that will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer and ultimately to control the weather, and he who controls the weather will control the world.
Right? So Lyndon Johnson, who controls the weather, controls the world. And that was said way back in the 1960s. They had the technology, as we talked about on the show time and time again. They had this technology way before he made that statement, or else he wouldn't have made that statement in the first place, right? Here's the leader of the strongest country in the world, the leader of the world, basically saying this. He who controls the weather controls the world, right? So listen to some of these facts now.
How did we get a dozen 1,000-year floods in 3 days? That headline from AccuWeather. The AccuWeather report then asks, how is that possible, and is the danger increasing? Question mark. Here's the short answer. Yes, the danger is increasing and will continue to increase rapidly in direct lockstep with the expansion of covert weather warfare operations and the planet's collapsing life support systems. From News4.com, what's with so many 1,000-year floods in 1 year? Question mark. From Fox News, what caused over a dozen 1,000-year floods in just 3 days? Question mark again. So many questions. Stop and ponder these headlines. Over a dozen 1,000-year floods in just 3 days. Is the 25-year-old CEO of Rainmaker Cloud Seeding Company being scapegoated for the tragic Texas floods? Our government and Matrix Media are both neck deep in damage control mode, doing their best to cover the tracks of the climate engineers. It's just jet exhaust and contrails, they tell us. Just conspiracy theory, they say. Move along. What did former U.S. President Lyndon Johnson say all the way back in 1963 on film and on the record? Johnson stated that we had the power to control the world's cloud layer, even then, followed by this, quote, he who controls the weather controls the world. Question, how much has weather warfare technology advanced since then? Look up. There's your answer. How did we get a dozen 1,000-year floods in 3 days? That headline from AccuWeather. The AccuWeather report then asks, how is that possible, and is the danger increasing?
How did we get over a dozen 1,000-year floods in 3 days? So that's, the weather experts who say this is like such a horrendous weather event. It only happens once in every 1,000 years. But we had over a dozen in less than 3 days. Over a dozen in different areas of the United States, and I would even say the world, in less than 3 days. So in 1,000 years, you'll get one of these weather events happening, these flash floods. But more than 12 in 3 days happens, right? Obviously, there's a good faction of the people out there who don't really do their own research and they just listen to the news and they listen to what city officials tell them and whatever, because city officials just listen to whatever they're told. And they say it's because of climate change. Obviously, it's climate change. That's why we're getting all these horrific events. It has nothing to do with weather modification. Okay, well, that's a good statement. I appreciate your point of view. Thanks for that. So now let's look into it. So is it just climate change, or are there companies out there that are messing with the weather? Oh, that's interesting. I never thought. Messing with the weather. What do you mean? Who's messing with the weather? Is that even possible? Yeah, well, it is. And there's many, many companies doing it, being contracted by different governments for different reasons. One of them is to dim the sun, because it's our solution to climate change, right? The warming that we are experiencing. Well, why don't you just put a huge layer of clouds blocking the sun and reflecting the solar energy back into outer space, so that we have companies out there spraying our skies to make that happen, right? There's companies out there that are making that happen. And they're being contracted through our governments, depending on where it is in the world. But they're out there doing it. And there's many of them. There's thousands of these companies throughout the world doing this over and over and over. Blender talking a little bit about, again, weather modification. And I really appreciate these guys. They'll just shed a little bit more light on the subject for us. Take it away, Blender.
For years, they called it a conspiracy. They mocked, censored, and gaslit anyone who dared to ask questions about geoengineering or weather modification. But now, after catastrophic floods across Texas, New Mexico, and North Carolina, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA, has finally cracked the door open. And guess what? It was never a conspiracy. It was just an inconvenient truth. The EPA just dropped new online resources acknowledging geoengineering, cloud seeding, and solar radiation management. Things they've spent decades pretending didn't exist. So why now? Well, maybe because a Texas-based weather modification company, Rainwater Tech, received death threats after cloud seeding just days before the floods. The CEO says it's all but a coincidence, and maybe it is. But after decades of denial, people have the right to be suspicious. Even the EPA's own administrator, Lee Zeldin, went on X and said flat out, Americans have questions about geoengineering and contrails. They expect honesty and transparency from their government. This ends today. So, what exactly does the EPA now admit? For starters, solar engineering is real. This is where they inject sulfur into the stratosphere to block the sun. They also admit to cloud seeding, which involves spraying silver iodide into clouds to force rain. This, of course, has been happening for 50 years and already happens in over 50 countries. In the US, it's sold as a drought-fighting miracle, but there's almost no transparency, no oversight, and no informed public consent. They also addressed so-called chemtrails, dismissing them as harmless contrails, but at the same time, they admit they're now tracking private actors involved in geoengineering, so is it harmless or is it worth investigating? In any case, one thing I can appreciate is that the EPA didn't sugarcoat the potential dangers of geoengineering. According to their own materials, it could destroy the ozone layer, disrupt global and regional weather patterns, harm or wipe out entire crops, trigger acid rain, that's a fun one, and deepen global inequality if deployed unevenly. In other words, steal rain from one region to dump it on another, which starts to sound a lot like warfare. You could either starve your enemies by limiting their crop yield or flush them out by absolutely drenching their most populated floodplains. If that sounds familiar, it's because the US did something similar during the Vietnam War to extend monsoon season of the Ho Chi Minh Trail. So, engineering and weather modifications are very real. I guess that's another check mark for the conspiracy theorists, but here's the thing. You don't get to play God with the sky and expect zero repercussions. There's no free lunch, folks. We're tampering with systems we barely understand and pretending we can fix climate change by hacking the atmosphere and blocking the sun. This is a very stupid game, and you know what they say about stupid games. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
I don't know. Do they say that? If you play stupid games, you get stupid prizes? I've never heard that before, but hey, I'll take it. Stupid games, stupid prizes. Do stupid things, get stupid results. I definitely agree with that one. I guess it's similar. So, if this is your first time watching the show, we're talking about some possibilities of why we've had so many 1,000-year floods, over 12 of them in 3 days in the United States, and they continue. It's more than likely due to weather manipulation, modification, geoengineering, and it's about time we just kind of did our homework and look up. Just look up in your own skies. And they're doing a better job about, making it look cloudy when it's not. It's just all chemicals in your sky. They're not real clouds. Like I wish we just have a class on it, just showing. Maybe we should do that one show. Be hard for those listening, but I'd have to describe the clouds a little bit more because people are just like, no, those are clouds. I'm like, no, those are not clouds. Those are not real clouds. They started as a spray from an exhaust from a plane, and then they started spreading out. And when they spread out, that's when it starts to look like what people think or get tricked into believing that it's just cloudy. But clouds aren't just one big blanket of gray in the sky. That's not a cloud. That's spray. Clouds are clouds. They're individual. They're not just one big blanket of stuff in the sky. That's about as much as I'll do right now without pictures and going more into it. But thanks for watching, everyone. Appreciate you. Appreciate the fact that we've been off for since Thursday. So I haven't seen you guys for a while. So thanks for being on. I appreciate you commenting here and taking the time to be part of our conversation, which is Sudbury News Talk each and every weekday morning on CKLU 96.7 FM, right around 7:30 to 8:30. Tomorrow, we should have special guests on, Tom Price and Bob Johnson. We'll be talking about some of the new studies that have come out about the city's spending. Kind of shows that Tom's been on the right track with some of the things he's been trying to talk about with the city. And good morning, Miles. Great to have you on today. So anyways, that's all the time we got for the show today. We'll be back same time, same place on the same platforms, God willing, tomorrow at the same time. We really appreciate you. Hopefully you'll be here for the conversation tomorrow and be a little bit more enlightened about the state of our city and our finances and what we can do about it. Also, we'll be, remember to stay aware, like, share, take care, and stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Have a really great Tuesday, everyone. Ciao for now.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.